Hello everyone, today is 28th of February. Now it's 10 past 9 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for a day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. Later on today I will publish second news update on my Patreon and Boosty pages, and if you are looking for more news from Russia, more commentary or the better understanding of Russian or pro-Russian views on some major developments, I hope you will consider to support this project, my work, and to become a Patreon for the project. All the members of our Patreon and Boosty communities, links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. That's been said, let's go through some news now. And first of all, breaking news for this morning, which is that the Russian Federal Security Service prevented a terrorist attack in Moscow against Metropolitan Tikhon. So a terrorist attack against the Metropolitan Tikhon of Simferopol and Crimea, planned by Kiev regime, was prevented in Moscow. FSB is stating in its press release, the Federal Security Service of the Russian Federation prevented the terrorist act planned by the Ukrainian Special Services against the Metropolitan Tikhon of Simferopol and Crimea. Metropolitan, of course, is hierarchy in church. In this particular case, Russian Orthodox Church. According to FSB, the murder of Metropolitan Tikhon was planned by his assistant Denis Popovich and the clerk Nikita Ivankovich. The defendants were recruited by the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine. One of their detainees, and they are detained now, so one of them said that for refusing to commit terrorist attack, he was threatened with the murder of his relatives. In December 2024, an AID, improvised explosion device, was transferred to them by main intelligence directorate of Kiev regime. The criminal action was planned to be carried out, terrorist attack was planned to carry out while Metropolitan Tikhon was in Moscow. The special FSB is saying detained assistant to Metropolitan Popovich said that the explosives were supposed to be installed in a Sretinsky monastery. They were attacking monastery, by the way. This terrorist regime of Zelensky was planning to conduct terrorist attack in a monastery, right? I'm calling Zelensky's regime a terrorist regime for a reason, by the way. And there are so many instances of terrorist activity of these criminals, right? As noted by another person involved, Ivankovich, the first attempt was planned in early January, but due to the fact that Denis was detained, one of the criminals that was involved in this action, this terrorist attack was not carried out. Therefore, the attempt was planned, another attempt was planned for the end of February. The investigation found in their phones of detainees, more than 70 Ukrainian contacts, including the press secretary of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Margarita Rivchenko. Crazy, isn't it? After committing the crime, the defendants planned to leave Russia with forged documents, an improvised explosive device, and 2 fake passports of Ukrainian citizens were seized from them by investigators. A criminal case was initiated under the article of perpetration for terrorist act and illegal trafficking of explosive devices. Detainees were arrested. So this is breaking news for now. Information clearly demonstrates true nature and the face of the Kiev regime. It's clearly a terrorist regime and should be treated as such by everybody in this world, not just by Russia and the allies of Russia, but by everybody. Also, we have a report about yesterday's meeting that took place in Constantinople, by the way, which called temporarily Istanbul, in so-called Turkey. Russian side did not really commented on these talks that took place yesterday much, but State Department did commented on it. So representatives of the United States and Russia at the meeting in Constantinople, that's the true name of that city, not in Istanbul but Constantinople, capital of Byzantium Empire, right? Discussed concrete steps to normalize the work of diplomatic missions and agreed on new contacts in the near future. The State Department reports in a constructive conversation, both sides identified concrete first steps for bilateral stabilization of the works of the diplomatic missions. Their statement said, in particular, United States expressed their concern about access to banking services and the hiring of their contract workers, and also stated the need to maintain the quantitative level of employees of their embassy in Moscow. Okay, according to report, negotiators agreed to hold a new meeting on these issues in near future. The date and location of this contact have not yet been determined. So, well, at least it is good that delegations of two countries are in talks, because Russian delegation did not comment on yesterday's meeting. Either Russian foreign ministry said anything, if I did not miss some update there. I guess negotiations did not went as well as some might hope. But anyways, at least sides are talking, and that's good, because after all, we are talking about two major nuclear superpowers. RIA Novosti, meanwhile, is also reporting that Zelensky in recent days dismissed the commander of the joint forces of the armed forces of Ukraine. I think this information also worth some attention. Vladimir Zelensky dismissed Major General Andrei Gnatov from the post of commander of the joint forces of the armed forces of Ukraine, according to decree published on Zelensky's website. Dismiss Gnatov from the post of commander of the joint forces of the armed forces of Ukraine. Document said the reasons for this decision are not specified. The Major General has held this position since June 24 last year, and I believe this person is in a wanted list of Russian security services, and hopefully one day he will be brought to justice for all the crimes that was committed by Kyiv regime's forces under his command and under his orders. But when it comes to this dismissal of high-ranking general of Kyiv regime, even though there is no details or specifics on that in this particular report on RIA Novosti, I might share with you some informed guess that maybe this decision of Zelensky has some connection with the conflict between Zelensky's camp and Zaluzhny's camp. I would not be surprised at all if we will find out sometime in the future that this dismissed general Andrei Gnatov was a member of Zaluzhny's camp, and nowadays obviously Zelensky is under, and his associates are under quite a pressure from many directions, including from US. Trump himself spoke about the necessity of elections in the so-called Ukraine. Elon Musk is attacking quite often Zelensky, and Musk is, of course, one of the closest allies of Trump. Other high-ranking officials in US also are not happy with Zelensky, and one way or another are, saying that elections should be held and that kind of stuff. Also, reports are in the Western media that some close associates of the Trump are seeing now Zelensky as an obstacle that needs to be dealt. And therefore, I think Washington, Langley, Pentagon, they are working on a number of scenarios, potentially, how to deal with Zelensky. One scenario is to force him to conduct elections and then just leave the country, most likely, flee the country. But if Zelensky will refuse to hold the elections, then I'm quite sure Washington will go ahead with a coup d'etat, right? And I think Zelensky is realizing this. and his associates, and they might start a purge of the officers, high-ranking officers included in armed forces of Kyiv regime that have any association with Zaluzhny or maybe even with the US, right? And God knows how many assets CIA has in so-called armed forces of Ukraine, by the way. A lot, probably, right? So, yes, I think this is this might be the beginning of the large-scale purge in Kyiv regime's armed forces by Zelensky and his associates, if they are not stopped, who knows how many officers will be dismissed in upcoming days and weeks. Meanwhile, dear friends, RT is reporting that Zelensky will sign Trump's rare earth deal with no more negotiations, according to US Treasury Secretary. So United States and Ukraine have finalized their agreement on rare earth and their other natural resources, and Vladimir Zelensky is expected to sign the final document without further negotiations during his meeting with President Donald Trump on Friday, that is today, according to Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent. And well, this is quite interesting, isn't it? Because according to US officials, this is a deal, right? Deal will be signed about rare earth and some other resources. According to Ukrainian propaganda or Kyiv regime's propaganda, Zelensky will sign just a framework of a future cooperation. Framework that not obligates no one side to do anything at all, right? So which one is then? Is it a deal, concrete deal that obligates the sides, or is just a framework or statement about some intentions? I don't know. We will find out today, most likely. But in any ways, I find it quite strange, to say the least, that Trump and his inner circle, even though they are recognizing that Zelensky has some issues with some serious issues with legitimacy, they are still going ahead with whatever papers they're gonna sign today with this terrorist Zelensky. Those papers will have no legal meaning because of the questioned legitimacy of Zelensky. But tell this to Trump and his inner circle. I mean, I guess they don't care simply. And maybe Trump's game plan is that even though he probably knows that vast majority of the territories of this former Soviet Republic, Ukraine, will be directly or indirectly controlled by Russia, with the exception of Western Ukraine, let's say. And most of the fields with some minerals and so on are located exactly on that area, which will be controlled by Russia. Trump might think that, while having this paper that was signed by Zelensky, he will have some leverage during the negotiations with Russia to allow US companies to have a favorable access to these fields and to work on some rare earth or whatever else is there. But I don't think this will work. I really don't think this will work because Moscow cannot recognize no paper that is signed by Zelensky, right? It's just not happening. Russia and US companies may cooperate anyways, with or without this paper, but if Trump thinks this agreement with Zelensky gives him some upper hand with Russia, he's just simply mistaken, because nobody here, by the way, in Russia cares about anything that Zelensky signs, right? He is a terrorist, mass murderer, criminal, and should be in jail for life, right? That's it. And nothing that he signs has any legitimacy at all. Meanwhile, RT is reporting that French leadership wants a piece of cake, let's say, when it comes to this rare earth. And we have this statement from Defense Minister of France, Le Cornu, or whatever his freaking name is, that Paris would like to participate in their decisions between Washington and Kiev about developing Ukraine's mineral resources. Yes, French Defense Minister Sébastien Lecornu has stated, speaking on France Info Radio on Tuesday, he revealed that France has been engaged in talks with Ukraine since October about securing raw materials for its defense industry. Okay, tell this to Trump, by the way. Macron was speaking with Trump just a couple of days ago, isn't it? And well, he had the opportunity to demand a stake in this deal or framework or whatever Trump and Zelensky are about to sign today. But did Macron spoke about it with Trump? I don't know. And I don't think Trump's administration in a mood to, play some games with the European states, really, because they know EU is in decline big time, and the leading economies of European Union are facing some significant challenges and are definitely not on the top of the game. And by the way, it's not just Trump that knows that. Leader of this terrorist regime in Turkey, Erdogan, knows this also. And he's saying now that only Turkey can save EU. How ironic is that? How ironic is that this terrorist Erdogan is saying that only Turkey can save EU. Okay, I don't care about Turkey, I don't care about EU, obviously. None of them should exist, by the way, if you ask me. My personal opinion, I have no respect for any of them, right? But news is news, isn't it? Let's go through it anyways. So only Turkey's full membership in the EU can save the bloc from inevitable decline. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has said Ankara's bid to join the EU has been in a limbo for nearly a decade due to its failure to meet EU standards in a number of areas. I mean, Turkey is asking for EU membership for decades, not just for decades, but for decades, and being ignored by Brussels and other capitals among EU member states for all this time. And I don't think anything is going to change in this regard. But anyways, let's continue. In a televised address following a cabinet meeting in Ankara on Monday, Erdogan claimed that Turkey's membership could save the European Union from its deadlock, ranging from economy to defense and from politics to international standings. He added that Turkey could provide a lifeline to the EU's aging economy and workforce. Erdogan urged the EU to acknowledge this situation as soon as possible and not continue with the same older mistakes. And then, quote, as always, we are eager to advance our membership process based on mutual benefits and respect with a constructive approach, he said, arguing that swifter results are within the reach if the EU shows a political will. Yet again, I don't think Brussels will seriously consider to accept Turkey in EU. And first of all, because probably they are afraid that Turkey is going to dominate inside the EU, right? That's probably the biggest fear that European elites have. And therefore, no changes should be expected in regards to Turkey-EU relationships, but it is interesting to notice and quite ironic that Erdogan is kind of trolling now EU that you are, by saying that you are so weak that only I can save you. I mean, you are done. Without me, you are finished. That's quite a stuff, by the way, especially if you take into account that Turkey itself is on its last breath, I will say. Give it another 10, 15, 20 years and there will be no Turkey on the political map, by the way. Right? Just mark my words and, after 15, 20 years, you will remember that, Levan was correct. I mean, he saw this coming. And, Turkey had explode and Turkey will explode from within, by the way. This is artificial entity that should never existed, right? But due to criminal actions of the European kingdoms in medieval times, they weakened the Byzantium Empire so much so, including Constantinople, by the way, that when Turkic tribes arrived in this area, they were, quite. They find themselves in a situation that when they could occupy vast territories because yet again Byzantium Empire was sacked by Western Europe, right? These so-called crusaders from Western Europe, mainly, and eventually these Turkic tribes did manage even to occupy Constantinople itself, and they are calling it now Istanbul. This Greek city, by the way, this historical Greek city is called now Istanbul, but not for long, by the way. Give it another 10, 15, 20 years, and hopefully Greek will reestablish its sovereignty over their Constantinople, and hopefully Russia will help with that, because Turkey is obviously historical enemy of Russia, and the actions of the Erdogan only demonstrates that, only highlights that, isn't it? It is what it is. And you remember Erdogan just a couple of months ago was asking for membership in BRICS. So he wants everything, He is just a despicable individual, by the way. But anyways, it is interesting to notice that even Erdogan is laughing at EU nowadays. Meanwhile, as you know, dear friends, Trump had a meeting with another clown, this time from UK, and this clown called Keir Starmer, so-called prime minister there. And Trump refused actually to guarantee backup for British militaries once they are deployed into so-called Ukraine. They spoke about a number of topics, but well, I wouldn't say this Starmer Macron's visits in the White House were that successful, really. US President Donald Trump has said that the British troops can take care of themselves when asked whether the US military would support them if the UK deploys forces to Ukraine as a part of potential peace agreement with Russia. British Minister Keir Starmer met with Trump at the White House on Tuesday, and by the way, what is interesting detail are the nuance. Trump did not met Macron. When Macron was visiting a White House, Trump did not met him on the entrance to the White House, but he met Starmer, I believe. That's for you, this link that between these two Anglo-Saxon states exists still, like UK and US, and some people are even arguing that still UK is in charge of US policies, by the way. It's not the other way around, but it's actually UK that runs the show. Royal family and the British elites. I don't know that much about that kind of stuff, but anyways, fact is fact. Trump greeted Macron on the entrance of the White House. He did not do that in regards to Macron. Anyways, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer met with Trump at the White House on Thursday, where they discussed a plan to reach what he called a peace that is tough and fair. I'm working closely with other European leaders on this. I'm clear that the UK is ready to put boots on the ground and planes in the air to support the deal, working together with our allies, because that is the only way that peace will last, Starmer told reporters after the meeting. Trump, however, sidestepped a question about whether the US would provide backup if the deployment led to clashes with Russian forces, telling journalists that the British don't need much help. They can take care of themselves very well. It sounds like it's evasive, but it's not evasive. You know, the British have been incredible soldiers, incredible military, and they can take care of themselves, Trump said at the photo op before their meeting. If they need help, I'll always be with the British, okay? I'll always be with them, but they don't need the help. That was Trump's response. And by the way, as I said there many times before in previous updates, I mean, we have more and more indicators that European elites clearly are pushing continental Europe towards a full-scale war with Russia. All this topic of deployment of European NATO troops into Ukraine is just that preparation of the ground for, at this point, seems like inevitable large-scale war. And the US will do good for itself if it will stay out of this war. That yet again seems like inevitable at this point. And you know what? I have to disagree with Trump on many issues, and also on issues of British troops being able to take care of themselves. Russian armed forces will obliterate entire British army in just about a couple of weeks' time like that. Let them come in, brother. Let them come in. They want a war? Okay, we will give them a war. And I think because situation is getting more and more critical in this direction, I think maybe it is a time for Russian leadership to consider another wave of mobilization. And by the way, by saying so, I will also add that I am myself ready to be mobilized in very first day, right? I can be useful in some ways, right? I have no military experience. I barely managed to disassemble and reassemble AK, for example, but I can do something, right? So while saying that maybe it is time to prepare for what is coming, for risks of a full-scale or large-scale confrontation with NATO, I think it is necessary to conduct mobilization. And yes, while saying so, mobilize me first. I mean, I have no issue with that. And you know, let's be ready. Let's be ready, because these guys, these psychos actually are not stopping. Western ruling class, as I said many times before, will not stop until their faces are smashed by Russia. And we did it. Our grandfathers' generations and their grandfathers' generations did it during the Napoleon era, then during the Third Reich era, and maybe it's time for us to do the same. So let's get ready, by the way, because these psychopaths are not stopping, and they are about to provoke, most likely, large-scale conflict between Russia and Europe. And I think if Russia mobilizes 1 million reservists, million and a half, that will do the job. That will do the job, by the way. You know, if necessary, even more can be mobilized, but I think million and a half with the proper leadership. And now, by the way, you know, Russian armed forces have officers, all level of officers that have a combat experience, battle experience in high intensity clashes. So therefore, if we are mobilized and if our units have officers that already had their battle experience, obviously we will be, as a units, as a formations, much more capable, even reservists, much more capable than, let's say, British units or the French units that have no battle experience and have no officers with the battle experience, right? So therefore, you know what? If they want war, let them do it. Let them do it, you know. We will take care of them, man. And I'm really sick and tired of Western elites, and I really want Western elites to be put in their place right next to a toilet with a toothbrush in hand, so that they will clean that toilet on a regular basis. That's where place of Western so-called elites and Western ruling class is. And we have to remind them that. And we can do it, right? So let's do it, man. That's my take on the situation. If these so-called elites in Europe think that they're gonna scare us while talking about deployment of their troops and that kind of stuff, you know what? Many of us wants that to happen. Many of us want to put these motherfuckers into their places, by the way. That's how it is, man. So you're welcome. Just try it. Meanwhile, let me notice that this small media project from Russia is completely subscriber funded, and no matter where you are, dear friends, in this world, if you find this project interesting, useful, if you think voice from Russia should be heard in English-speaking world, and unfortunately voices from Russia are suppressed big time, isn't it? But if you think I'm doing something good, interesting, useful, please consider to support my work. You can do it through several means. You can support this project with donations through PayPal and Boosty platforms. And Boosty works, by the way. And PayPal works always. Boosty does work sometimes, but sometimes it does not. But yesterday it did work, and I received one donation. So therefore, probably it does work today also. You never know with Boosty, by the way. But at least when it comes to this platform, particular Boosty, it does not ban channels from Russia, right? It just don't cares. These channels are coming from where. Anyways, you can support through these several means with the donation through PayPal or Boosty, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. Patreon is also, of course, world famous platform for creators to receive some financial aid from communities, and all the links, by the way, to my PayPal, Boosty, Patreon are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment, and you can find there also that address of the crypto, by the way, just in case, So yes, many thanks to everybody, of course, who supported and continues to support my work. Truly grateful for this unique opportunity to be in this field of news and political commentary. And I hope I really do something of something that is interesting and useful for the community. And I will continue to do so, by the way, as long as I can. RT, meanwhile, is reporting that Trump extends anti-Russian sanctions for another year. What a surprise. What a surprise. I'm just joking. So US President Donald Trump has signed an executive order extending for another year certain sanctions against Russia over the Ukraine conflict, according to a document released by the White House on Thursday. Initially imposed in 2014 following Crimea's reunification with Russia, their measures have been expanded through multiple executive orders and are now extended for another year through March 6, 2026. I have to go through at least headlines, by the way, quickly, so that update is shorter. Also, yesterday, Russian president had a meeting with the FSB board, and during this meeting, he made quite a few interesting statements. For example, he said that contacts with the administration of US President Donald Trump inspire certain hopes. You see, we all see how rapidly the world is changing, the situation in the world. In this regard, I would like to note that the first contact with the new US administration inspires some hopes. There is a mutual intention to work for the restoration of interstate relations, for the gradual solution of the colossal volume of accumulated systemic and strategic problems in the world architecture. The president said, okay. Well, I will agree with this statement that yes, there is some hope, but also just a little bit maybe, because we should stay skeptics, by the way. We should stay skeptics, and trust is the issue, of course. And I don't think we can trust U.S. leadership or leadership of European states anytime soon, or at least in even next 3-4 decades to come. We cannot trust them. So therefore, whenever there is some talks or agreements, some mechanism should be put in place to make sure that these agreements will last. Right? And also, by the way, Russian president, during that meeting with the FSB, called on the security services and their diplomacy to stop attempts to disrupt their dialogue with the United States. According to Putin, first contacts with the U.S. administration inspires hope, as I just said. He also noted that not everyone is interested in resumption of contacts between Russia and the United States, and some Western elites are still determined to maintain instability in the world, and these forces will try to disrupt or compromise the dialogue that has begun. As we can see, we need to take this into account and use all the possibilities of diplomacy and the special services to thwart such attempts, Putin stressed, as quoted by the Kremlin. And basically, Putin reiterated what I was saying all these times, like almost in every single update, that European elites most likely will try to derail talks between Russia and the US, and the security services of Russia and the US also must be in close cooperation if US is serious about the escalating to neutralize whatever threats will be generated by European elites, and they will generate threats, by the way. They will authorize terrorist attacks, they will authorize the false flag operations, and they are already doing this, right? So, I mean, Putin definitely has a point there, and hopefully security services of Russia will deal with all these issues, and hopefully, U.S. counterparts will cooperate with Russian security services on this direction. That will be useful for both countries. RT is also reporting that DOJ released their Epstein files, phase 1, as it called. Although, by the way, as far as I understand, there was nothing new in this released files. Maybe next phases will reveal something that we did not yet heard or did not knew, but what was released yesterday, nothing new there. Although, by the way, US leadership seems like determined to go ahead with some legal actions against their criminals that were involved in all that story. RIA Novosti is also reporting that the US cancels all production agreement with Venezuela. So US President Donald Trump, in their social network Truth Social, which belongs to him, said that Venezuela did not fulfill the terms of the agreement with Washington on oil production, and it will be cancelled from March 1st. Well, get ready for another attempt of US to conduct regime change in Venezuela. I think this is a clearly indicator that US is preparing assault. Also, by the way, we have report that Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi could attend this year's Victory Day parade in Moscow on 9th of May, of course, which will be great, by the way, it will be great. And also, I want to share with you information that FBI, US Federal Bureau of Investigation, accuses North Korea of largest crypto hack in history. So North Korea, according to FBI, is responsible for the theft of around 1.5 billion US dollar in virtual assets from their Dubai-based Bybit cryptocurrency exchange. Well, who knows, man? Maybe this is true, maybe not. I reported in my previous updates, I believe on my Patreon page during the second update about this crypto hack, and now FBI is claiming that North Korea was behind it. Maybe not, I don't know, but I wonder how these North Korean hackers learn this kind of stuff. Man, they are seems like they are quite good at hacking, Every other month there are some reports about North Korean hackers doing some dodgy stuff. But anyways, I will end this update on that. Hopefully you will find it informative, interesting, and useful, and if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary. And if you want to support my work, dear friends, you can do it. All the links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. Have a wonderful day and take care.